Thank you. And roll call?
Lori Massman. Here. Lorelei Schwartz. Here. Lindsay Rowden. Here. Ken Enlow.
Here.
And Stephanie Johnson on Polycom. Here. Thank you. And I show Brad Bates and Scott Gilbert are absent.
Okay. All right, would entertain motion to approve the agenda. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. And would entertain a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes from October meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Likewise. All right, this is always our favorite part of the meeting, is to have some recognition of some of our amazing staff and students. And so, Brian, if you would help us with that.
Yes. Members of the Board of Education and Dr. Linthicum, we are honored here to give some of our best and brightest in the class of 2022, outstanding seniors from Cap City and Jeff City. Tonight from Cap City we have Emma Sellers. Emma is the daughter of Bethany and John Sellers. Academically, she's taken AP US History, College Algebra, AP Stats, AP Biology, and dual enrollment English 101 and 102. Personal accomplishments, she's won multiple music competitions. Emma, are you here? Come on up. Sorry. I don't want to brag about you when you're sitting down.
She's humble also.
Including one gold, so she's a state champion in music. She's only missed 0.14 total days of attendance. Was it one class? Half a class? Portia, we got to get that.
Oh my gosh.
In her entire high school career. She is a great supporter, and thanks for her family and friends, a strong parental group. She was student council vice president for 2 years and a member of National Honor Society, gaining 20 hours of community service, and she's also a member of Cap City's a cappella group, the Royal Blues. For job and employment, last 2 years she worked at Southwest Animal Hospital as a technician assistant. Jobs consist of caring for various animals, packing surgical instruments, and maintaining a clean and efficient environment. She also works for a local entrepreneur, designing various articles of clothing, and she's the best in tie-dye, right? College and future plans. She plans to attend the University of Missouri in the fall of 22 and major in animal science with intentions to get a doctorate in veterinary medicine. I present to you Emma Sellers.
Congratulations, Em.
Up next from Capital City, Madison Wheeler. Madison is the daughter of Andrew and Amy Wheeler. AP courses include government and politics, biology, chemistry, and calculus. She has a 4.017 cumulative GPA. Personal accomplishments, she was invited to successfully complete the Honors Symposium at Harding University in Searcy, Arkansas. The Honors Symposium is conducted by the University Honors College and is a summer program for high school students entering their senior year. She's currently enrolled in one online college per semester through the Harding University's College Prep program in the university's Honors College. She's a member of National Honor Society, active involvement in youth at Fairgrounds Road Church of Christ, including local service projects and annual service work at the Children's Home in Northeast Arkansas. Her college and future plans are to go to pharmacy school at Harding University, dual track to include a PharmD and MBA degrees. I present to you Madison Wheeler.
Congratulations.
Next up for Capital City is Josephine Hall. Josephine is the daughter of Stephen and Jamie Hall. AP courses include AP US History, AP Government and Politics, AP Physics, AP Calculus, and dual enrollment English 101 and 102. She's an active member of Grace Episcopal Church, serving as an acolyte, usher, and reader. She was president of Student Council for 3 years and now Assembly's co-chairperson. Currently, she's working on her Eagle project in Scouts, in the Boy Scouts of America. I got kicked out of there. My brother got Eagle Scout, me, out. Congratulations. Active member of Venture Crew 10, has achieved the rank of Brotherhood in the Order of the Arrow, and is member of National Honor Society and Symphonic Orchestra. She volunteered and worked at Capital City Christian Church Child Care Center since the summer of 2017. She plans to attend the University of Missouri to study special education, and we will get her on the payroll shortly after that.
No kidding. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Josephine Hall.
Yeah, we'll be putting your name in the personnel report later. So.
Absolutely. Next up for Jefferson City High School, Caitlin Davis. Been after Caitlin since the beginning of the year. I always asking her, are you going to come to the board meeting? She goes, I got work. You guys keep changing board meetings. So we finally got here tonight, so we're happy she's here.
All right.
Caitlin's the daughter of Jill and Chris Davis. She has a 4.057 GPA and is ranked number 2 in the class at Jeff City High School.
All right.
35 ACT score, taken a total of 8 AP courses starting in her sophomore year. She started a band with other JC students playing guitar. She's also a member of the National Honor Society. Part of the orchestra program since 5th grade, playing violin. She attended the State Music Festival, getting a gold ranking each time. She works part-time at TJ Maxx, and she plans to go to UMKC and major in biology. I present to you Caitlin Davis.
Maybe we could get you to come back to one of our meetings and play for us.
Next up for JC is Cameron Swinford. Cameron is the daughter of Kim Connor and Tim Swinford. Her academic accomplishments are AP Psychology, AP English Comp, Honors English 1. She was a member of the varsity Lady J golf team for 4 years, and this year placed 12th in the state, winning a medalist. She won the tournament overall at Heritage Hills in 2021, won the Eldon tournament in 2020, drama club member. She played Violet Beauregard in Willy Wonka recently, right? And she's been in the choir for 3 years. Her extracurricular involvement, she's been a Lady J golf member, the choir, and also drama club. She plans to go to Columbia College, deciding between human services, social worker, or education major, elementary teacher. So another teacher we can get with us here at JC. So I present to you Cameron Swinford. Next up for JC is Sandy Baskar. Sandy is the daughter of Indu Baskar and Baskar Muthu. Academic accomplishments, she's taken 12 AP courses as of a senior year. How many taken this year? 5, so 17, including 12, nice. Academic all-conference player for 4 years. Presented internship work at the prestigious international conference and will be published later this month. Wow. She had the Youth Leadership Award in 9th grade, played #1 for high school team for all 4 years. She's a 2-time district tennis champion and 3-time state qualifier. She'll be featured in Sports Locker magazine as the player of the year. Drives to Columbia 5 to 6 days a week to play tennis. Maintained above a 3.9 GPA, both unweighted and weighted. Her extracurricular involvement were obviously captain of the high school tennis team, vice president of the National Honor Society, classical dancer, tutoring young students with math and English help. She's worked at the YMCA and the club at Old Hawthorne as a tennis instructor. In the summer of 21, she started a new tennis academy in town and is now teaching around 15 kids successfully.
Wow.
When do you have free time? College and future plans, hoping to attend college in the West or East Coast. She was telling Dr. Linthicum and I at lunch the other day, she has them all covered. Columbia, Rochester, and then some, UCSB, right? We talked about a beach school. So she's going to play club tennis or on the tennis team, depending on where she attends college. She's going to major in business marketing management with the goal of becoming a CEO in the future, and I have no doubt she'll become that.
Absolutely.
So I present to you Sandy Baskar. This year she was 30-0 in tennis. Congratulations.
Yeah, that's great.
If we could get a picture real quick of the group. Right over here, Doctor.
Some girl power tonight.
No kidding.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Anybody, any other parents need photos? Don't be shy.
That's right.
Okay, now Megan wanted just a girl.
Yeah. Congratulations, ladies. Thank you so much. An impressive group. So, thank you all. Thank you, Brian. All right, and we have some difference makers. So, Dr. Bowie, if you will.
Good evening. If I could be joined by Mr. Schultz and the Callaway Hills staff members.
Did y'all get your shirts from her?
Designed by Mr. Schultz.
Oh, okay, all right.
Good evening. For the month of November, it is my pleasure to recognize the Callaway Hills elementary staff as this month's difference maker. Callaway Hills was recently included in a study of policy research in Missouri education as being among schools in Missouri with the highest growth in academic achievement. In 2019, Callaway Hills had the highest growth score among JCSchools at 91% growth in ELA and math on the state assessments. Last year, Callaway Hills had the highest attendance percentage in the district, even in the midst of the pandemic. They also continue to have high staff attendance rates. Callaway Hills values professional development, and on last year's staff survey, the staff reported the highest favorable response for valuing professional learning. Callaway Hills staff have worked very hard to improve the social and emotional well-being of their students, as well as to improve student achievement. Congratulations to Principal Todd Schultz and the Callaway Hills staff. And
Congratulations.
I'll have Mr. Schultz share a few words about that.
Okay, now, so somebody said something about these shirts, and I can't pass this up. So, you know, everybody has these shirts, and so I didn't have a shirt committee, so I designed these shirts myself. Now, when I designed these shirts, I thought they were slick and cool, because I thought, well, let's just put this right up here like this, and so they were all gray, and they just had this. And so, you know, they come to me and said, hey, you know, we appreciate the shirts, but what if we tie-dye these? I says, well, you know, I mean, if it's got to be all or nothing, then everybody's like, yeah, we should really tie-dye these. And I'm like, okay, well, they turned out great. So, you know, we'll have a shirt committee next year, so it'll be okay.
So you didn't really design the shirts then?
Well, I guess not. I mean, I will not be. Just a couple things, because I really appreciate this opportunity to highlight these folks, because they work tremendously hard. And so, you know, one of the things I always tell folks is you can have a great curriculum, you can have a lot of resources, you can have the most money, you can have the best facility, but what is really a difference maker, regardless of all those things that you have, are the people in the building. And when you look at the folks that are behind you, I just don't believe that it gets any better. I know everybody comes to work and works hard, but you know, these folks, education can be exhausting. It can be very tiring. It's very hard, and they come up every single day with a smile. And if there's blood, sweat, and tears, one day they're there, the next day trying to figure out, well, how do I do this? How do I get better? There's no excuse. All kids can learn. We're going to figure it out. And that's what these folks do. They support our kids, they support our families, and what's really important is they support one another. And I think that's just what makes everything go round. And it's an awesome place to get up and go every day because of the individuals that are standing in front of you. And so I really do appreciate the opportunity to honor them because it's just so well deserved. And I love that new prime thing, because a lot of times we focus on proficiency, but this really highlights the growth that teachers are doing day in and day out for kids, and it's hard work. So, I'd say let's give them another round of applause because they're awesome.
Absolutely.
Can we do a picture?
I see more girl power.
Yeah.
Maybe get a couple of you in the front row if you would.
Miss Brittany, we always have trouble with this.
I know. I am no Brittany. Good job.
Yep. I might need a few on the edges. Come a little closer.
Squeeze in.
It's not as noticeable as you would think. I think it's okay.
Do we want to move this? Do I need to move that?
Nope, we're good. Okay, ready, everybody? Smile. 1, 2, 3. Everyone in the audience is in this picture, so smile. 3. Okay, thank you.
Thank you all so much. Yeah. Thank you. I always wish that we could adjourn after we do that, but unfortunately, we have to go ahead and take care of some business, so.
Sure.
Yeah, I know, that's really what it's all about. So, thank you all so much for all you do and for coming out tonight after a long day, I know, so we appreciate you being here. All right, we will move on to reports, and we begin with the superintendent's report. Dr. Lithicum.
Absolutely. We'd like to thank everyone for joining us here this evening. It's awesome to recognize our folks that are making a difference every day, our students and our staff as well. And just thanks for being here. Have some things I'll share with you in a PowerPoint, but before we get to that, a few things I wanted to touch on. First, I'll just thanking our folks, our staff, our students, our teachers are working every day hard, keeping our schools open during the challenging times that we're in. We are excited about an opportunity later in the board meeting regarding our substitute teachers that Mr. McGraw will share with you as we know we have a shortage there. Brian and Dawn will touch on here in a little bit. It was in the first quarter, and as we look at our metrics in the first quarter, how we're doing as we look at our attendance, assessments, bottom line, our kids learning, our D's and F's, et cetera, and doing that going forward. One thing we started this last year, we had at the end of last school year, we had 82 second graders that are now in third grade that were behind in reading and or math. And so tracking those kids, excited to say at the end of the first quarter, 26 of those 82 now third graders, just 26 of the 82 had a D or an F, so that number is declining, and I thank our folks in our schools trying to identify it at an earlier age, recognizing those kids, getting them caught up as we go forward. We are in November, and as we look at the student calendar for the 22-23 school year, we will be providing our staff with some versions of that this week. We will ask our staff to vote, and we'll bring that back to you, our staff, of what they shared at our December board meeting. This year's school calendar had one full PD, or professional development day, in addition to the monthly early releases. And these 3 calendar versions will include an additional PD days to help achieve our goal of making sure we have PD for our staff. Version 1 also includes 2 full PD days, and versions 2 and 3 include 2 full PD days. So we'll discuss that at the next month. We just kind of wanted to highlight and let you know that we will be doing that as we usually try to approve that. We'll have a first reading and a second reading here and ask for approval from our board. We have the snow days possibly coming. It is November. We are in Missouri. We encourage folks and reminding folks to travel safe as the weather can change, even though here it was 77 today, I believe. But we do live in Missouri. That does include inclement weather. When we do have snow, it's not an automatic we cancel school. Okay, we need to remind, some folks have kind of forgotten that they see snow, we got to call off school. We do want to make sure that it's safe for our kids and our staff. We try to look at it from a standpoint of a 16-year-old driving a Mustang that's a rear-wheel drive car, or a bus full of kids going on a blacktop that maybe has not been treated. So there's a lot of factors in that. We know MoDOT, they've cut back on some of their roads, and so we have to factor that in as well. We usually, as a general rule, we do not call off school based upon a forecast. We like to, and if that requires waiting until the next morning, we know there's some surrounding schools that have started little by little. They'll call off school the day before at 6 p.m. because there's a weather forecast. If you're married to a weather woman or a weather man, commend them for their profession, but sometimes they're wrong. And so if we can call off the night before so folks can make daycare arrangements, we try to do so if possible. But as a general rule, again, we don't base it upon the forecast, but we base it upon the actual weather. We talk with our county, our city, Cole County, Callaway County. With MoDOT, there's a lot of different parts to that. Our goal is by 5:15 in the morning on the day of. If possible, 5:30 at the latest, but by 5:15. And if we do it the night before, we'd like to by 8:30 if possible. There's times we've done it later than that. There's just a lot of variables in that. Our notification system through our communications department, they do an outstanding job of that, and we try to notify folks to give of them notice. So we're just wanting to let folks know to be looking for that, preparing for that, as I do with, I have 3 daughters that are drivers, and do not let the tank go less than half full, and keep a blanket and all those good things, and keep your cell phone with you, and as we get into the winter months. Dawn will be discussing during her report our boundary line, an update on our boundary line process. We do have, this is our staff photo at the beginning of the school year that outline the words graduate. We've shared, you can go to the next slide here, Dawn. Our goal of making sure our kids graduate. So that's just a reminder. We're making progress with that. I believe the next slide has our graduation rate. We were the second highest in the last 30 years with that trend line. We're excited about that going forward. You might go to the next slide, a couple more. This was our test scores that were above the state average, making progress on that. We're excited about that going forward as well. And just to stay the district, our graduation rates, a lot of positives there, and you can read through those. One part that we're going to touch on just a little bit here, one, our student participation. So when we opened up Capital City High School with this fall, with JC and CC, over 700 students now have gotten involved in extracurricular and co-curricular activities outside of the traditional math, science, history, and English. And your research would say if they get involved in something outside of those core classes, and with now having 2 schools, we've had 700 more students get involved since we opened up Capital City High School. So we're super excited about that. Our parents survey, confidence rating of 90%. We do know that 10% is louder than they've ever been, and we have to acknowledge that, and that's part of that as well. But I want to touch on student behavior. So if you would go to the next slide here, Dawn. This here's the last 3 years. So 18, 19, 1920, 2021. This is basically the office referrals as a district. And when we look at that, you could say, well, that's progress. You could maybe say, well, are they sending them to the office? We would like to think with structures. We would like to think COVID, obviously, last year had an impact on that, and we recognize that. It's contributed toward, we think, an increase in our graduation rate, a lot of positives. But if you go to the next slide, we just want to acknowledge, this is the first 3 months this year. So on the left is the last school year, 2021, and on the right is the 21-22 school year. So as you can see, especially in the months of September and October, this is in 18 schools. This is in office referrals. You can see that they are more than doubled than it was last year. And when we go to our buildings and have rounding with our staff, we recognize that there are a lot of different elements in this. And it's not just here at our school district. I was in Kansas City at the Missouri School Board Association and talking with other superintendents. And it's not just here locally, Central Missouri, the state nationwide, of the post coming back from COVID, schools across the country. Every superintendent that I've talked with, whether they've, we had a lot of procedures in place for COVID, and then going back to Can we learn to play well with others? Can we play in the same sandbox at times, whether literally or not? And that's for all of us, adults and students as well. So we're acknowledging this. If you go to the next slide, just a couple things here. I'm not going to go through every single one, but bottom line, it is alarming, the increase in office referrals, and we want to acknowledge that. We will have at our next board meeting 1 month from now, it's the last bullet, student behavior plans going forward at our December agenda. So as we go back to the top, believing in kids, we believe in you, failure is not an option, but we want to make sure they know there's clear expectations and accountability. Folks can say you could get lost in the shuffle. We have a lot of students, we have a lot of adults. We are right at the state average for our student-to-teacher ratio. And one of the first things we're doing here is an internal audit with our elementary, middle school, and high school of how we are addressing student behavior. So just touching on this, I'm not asking for any vote. We will be discussing this a month from now. A starting spot with 5 expected student behaviors district-wide, being responsible, be respectful, follow directions, keep hands and feet to self, and be on time and be ready. So whether you're come to a school board meeting or you're in first grade or anywhere in between, those are good practices for all of us across the district. So we're not saying that's where we're going to be the final landing spot, but that's a starting spot with those because we know there's a need, tiered system of supports, the very targeted classroom management that some do that differently than others. We all have different perspectives. I've shared before that we have staff that grew up that if they got in trouble, they were sent to the woodshed, and then we had other folks that grew up, and if they got in trouble, they had a group hug. And so you bring that perspective with you to school. At the end of the day, if they disrupt the learning environment, it needs to be addressed. So we're working through that, and we'll be doing more with that here at our agenda at our December board meeting. So just wanted to touch on that, and I believe that's all I have for my report at this time.
I do have just one thing on the calendar, Larry.
Absolutely.
And I'm not going to put you on the spot with a question because you did mention that you're going to send some options to teachers.
Absolutely.
Of those options, if there is not already an option for a shortened or a 4-day school week, I would encourage you to put that as an option just to gather feedback from teachers.
Okay. Okay.
All right, any other questions of Dr. Lithicum? All right, thank you. Don, our Chief of Operations.
I don't have a lot to share tonight, but we do have some, we've got auditors in this week. They're on site through Wednesday, I believe, and Denise Pierce is taking the lead on working with them. Our boundary committee is going extremely well. We've had 3 meetings, and the feedback from those that have participated has been really good. They're engaged, they're working really hard to work through the principles that were set forth by this board, and it's going really well. Monday and Tuesday of next week, the 15th and 16th, from 5:30 to 7:30. On Monday night, we'll be at Capital City High School, and on Tuesday night, we'll be at Jefferson City High School. It's an open house style, kind of drop in as you can, no expectation to be there the full 2 hours for parents, but we really encourage you to come and look at those options and see what the committee's been doing. I said earlier to Mr. Enlow, it's amazing how much technology has changed in the last 10 years. I wasn't part of that committee in 2009, but I know the work that they had to do, and it was a lot harder than what is going on now. Not that there's a lot of hard work, but the technology has come so far that, well, when that hard work is put in, you can very quickly see the results afterwards. So it's going extremely well, and I encourage you to attend one or both of those meetings, or just drop in as you are able. Outdoor sports facilities. We're meeting with the schools individually over the next couple of weeks to talk through how to prioritize the things on their plans that we weren't able to do with that original 21-4, so that when we have funds that become available, or if we've got a little here or a little there, we can prioritize what those next steps are for finishing each of those facilities. Capital City, we should start to see some work this week. We're hoping to see gravel laid from Mission Drive down to those sports facilities, so that they're basically creating a road in and out of there to do the work. And once that is done, They'll be doing some utility work, and we should see some concrete work starting in December. So it's slower going to see progress there, but work is happening, and they're preparing to do some different things there, but we just have have some other things that have to be done, like getting the road there. It's not going to be a big splashy progress moment, but you have to do that to get the workers in there. Jefferson City High School, we're still blasting rock where the baseball field will be, and then they're going to start, Frank, correct me or jump in if I'm incorrect, the segmental retaining wall, the retaining wall that basically circles around that entire sports complex, kind of goes down Jackson and along Stadium and then back up Adams. That work will begin as soon as we've got the all of the blasting done. The Employee Benefits RFP later this evening, Sherry LePage, the CFO, will be presenting a presentation on, or a recommendation on an employee benefits package. We had a committee that reviewed the RFPs and worked together to develop a plan, and she'll be bringing those to you tonight. I think that's all I've got.
All right. Any questions of Dawn?
No, thanks, Dom, for all your work. I've heard nothing but good things on boundary line stuff.
Yeah, I think everybody's excited to see that move forward and get some recommendations, so we'll be anxious to see it. And again, the meeting's on Monday night. You said Monday at Capital City?
Monday at Capital City, 5:30 to 7:30.
Tuesday at JC. And those in
Both will be in the cafeteria.
the cafeteria for both those. Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
All right, and Mr. McGraw, Deputy Superintendent's report.
Couple of updates. COVID, first of all, from October 29 to 11/4, positive students while in school, we had 6. Positive staff while in school, 1. As of October 29th, total students currently quarantined due to personal contact, a positive case outside of school, 18. Total students named as a close contact due to classroom contact with a positive case, 16. 1 student is quarantined outside of school. Total staff currently quarantined due to either being positive or a close contact, 4. 2 of them are positive and 2 are contacts. The same week in 2020, last year, we had a total of 140 students and staff quarantined as either a positive case or close contact. So we're in a much better predicament than we were a year ago. As of November 4th, no school contacts have become positive per our case information, and as of November 4th, we've pretty much made it through the 2-week probationary period of homecoming. We've lived through those 2 events. So all of our schools are currently in the green status, so we hope to continue that success as we move forward. Second thing I have is regarding last month, Aaron gave a presentation on what we were doing with drug testing, and I just have some follow-ups. Right now, one of the questions was as far as the penalty with socioeconomics, kids getting or having the ability to go to the drug counseling, and some being punished more than others. What we're currently looking at is a way to do it internally with some of our guidance staff and health staff, and maybe craft something where it be after school and work in that manner. And the second thing would be on the drug test itself. Currently, we pay $10 per test. It costs us $5,000 a year to upgrade to the 7-panel test. It would be a total of $20,000. So $40 a test. So we go from $5,000 to $20,000. So those were the questions. I did talk to Chad. He would recommend that would be a good test if we would go to that. They use that at the hospital, and he's familiar with that. So if we were interested in moving forward that, again, we could do so. But I just wanted to get back to you on that information.
Thank you.
Okay, appreciate that information.
And the last,
Sorry. Oh, go ahead.
Last thing I have is on the board metrics that Dr. Linthicum brought up, the metrics that we're looking at as far as schools as a whole. We have our attendance rate, we have our staff attendance rate, so student and staff attendance, behavior events, which Doctor touched on, observations, how often we're getting out to see our teachers, whether they be new or veteran, our percentage of students with iReady, math, and reading, and also percentage of students with D's or F's in that first quarter. So what we've been doing, this is obviously a global perspective of all the schools, but we've been breaking them down by elementary school and secondary school, comparing some of them to statistics from last year and this year, common months, and looking at where we're doing well and where we're not so doing well. So again, attendance is up, as you can see, for student attendance. If you look at the teacher attendance, that's based on the staff and how many staff's in the building. So obviously, Jeff City High School would have more teachers out than Callaway Hills. So we had to break it down to more of a percentage based on the total staff in the building. So those metrics are there. Our behavior events, which Dr. Limpcomb mentioned, are up. Our teacher observation rate, which shows our principals are getting out to our schools more often than we were last year, whether that be walkthroughs, formal observations, or just visiting class in general. And then your percentage of students with D's or F's. Last year at this time, 41.6% of our students. That is down, as Dr. Limpcomb mentioned. We are seeing some movement there with kids. Obviously, we're never happy with that number. One is too many, but we're constantly getting after each and every day. And I think Callaway Hills is a testament to that. The work they're doing and not giving up on kids is the positive in all of this. And then our iReady numbers last year versus this year, 20.46%, 29, very similar. We have seen an increase in our math from 13.73 to 17%, which is a significant, slightly significant number. So, like I said, we're breaking everything down by school, having those conversations at the principal level, and the principals are taking it from there. So, we're monthly, we're generating updates in the report and going from there. And we'll keep you in the loop quarterly, and we'll be able to share this with you as we go.
All right. Any questions? I would just like to comment and commend our staff. I mentioned earlier, I was also at the MSBA meeting this last weekend in Kansas City, and talking to other counterparts, board members from around the state. We have been fortunate in terms of our handling of the COVID protocols, and so to Chad and Ryan and all of you, hearing some of the stories from around the state that were horror stories, quite frankly, of the way things had gone. In some districts, we've just done, I think, an exceptional job, and so commend our staff for not just the way we've handled it, but also the communication piece, because that, to me, again, was a big part of our proactive communication with what we were going to do, how we were going to do it. The parameters seemed to be very, very helpful in avoiding some of the reactionary kinds of situations that occurred in other places. So thank you all for
Two rock
everything.
stars, Ryan Burns and Chad Suter.
Yeah.
It's easy to do great when you got them.
Seriously, thank you. Okay. All right. Thank you for those reports, and it's now time for us to move into our open forum, and it's an opportunity for individuals to speak to the board regarding agenda items that we'll be taking action on tonight. So as a reminder, we may want to, if anyone wishes to set that item, disbursement aside until we can check it out, you could grant that. I would like to set aside the seating, Heartline seating contract, which is E, Megan Shadrick Assistive Services, which is F, and then the H surplus. Those are three things that I just have some questions on that I would like to set aside before we approve consent agenda, and we can come back and allow for answers to those questions. Any other items that would need to be, that would be requested to set aside?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda items, pulling aside E, F, and H.
All right, so we have that motion. Can I have a second? Second. All right, and any discussion on the motion to approve all the other items? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. And opposed? All right. So going back, I would just, Frank, could you, I'm assuming the Heartland seating, I would just like to know if you would explain to us a little bit about, was there a competitive bid process done with this project? And then just a little bit about the detail. I mean, it's a fairly...
Sure, not a problem. And under DESE, cooperative purchasing through the TIPS program, that's one of the co-ops that we go out and do purchase for them. They've already submitted their bids, if you will, on a competitive level amongst other competitors.
Okay, so we use cooperative procurement
Right,
leverage through
exactly,
DESE. Okay,
exactly. TIPS is a co-op.
all right. And is this a company that installed the seating, or?
No, the company
They-
that has installed the seating is not actively able to service the seating.
Do these
so
repairs.
Heartland, we used Heartland for Capital City High School, and then Lewis and Clark and TJ when we did those bleachers.
Okay.
So we're familiar with their work and what they plan on doing to these bleachers.
Okay, and so these are repairs to the existing bleachers at Jefferson City High School,
These
correct?
bleachers were installed 2008, and in that time, they've got rollers that are probably about 12 inches in diameter. They've dried out, and they just slip on the surface right now. They're doing some rewiring work to the bleachers to make sure that the controls work right. Some of the controls don't, and they have to physically pull the bleachers out now like they used to a long time ago. But and then they're going to do some welding under there. There's some additional support welding that they need to do just as a safety measure.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, great. Any other questions about that contract?
No.
All right, I would entertain a motion to approve the Heartland Services, or Heartland Seating
So moved.
contract.
Second.
Motion is second. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, and opposed. And then the assistive services, all right, Bridget, I figured you meant, can you just give us a little detail about,
Yeah, so.
this appears to be a new contract, is that correct?
It is, so it's kind of a unique need, so without mentioning kind of too specific student information, but.
Of course.
What we're looking for here is some very specialized training with assistive technology. The training that we need is actually called the JAWS program, so it's basically software that is downloaded onto a laptop that will help convert the laptop into something that is accessible for a student that has a visual impairment, that might be blind or just doesn't have the sight enough to be able to access websites or Google Classroom. So what we're seeing is that particularly since a lot of our instruction is on the Google Classroom, either Google Slides or or just researching the web. Not all of those sites are visually friendly, and so this software will help a student access those websites by reading it to them, or it will even transpose it into Braille. So we actually already have the software. We have learned the software ourselves okay and kind of muddled through, but it's gotten to the level of us really needing some more specialized training and support. So ideally, this contract would allow us to not only receive that training for the students that need it, but also give the direct training to our staff as well, so we could become proficient. So the hope would be that this would not be something that we need long-term. For the students that we are considering this for, I would anticipate actually we would pick it up pretty quickly, and then it might be something that we would need within a year. But for right now, we really feel like we need it in order to teach ourselves how to use the software, and then more importantly, to teach the students that are trying to access it.
Okay, so for visually impaired students in the?
Yes,
okay.
absolutely. And
All right.
it's
All
very
right.
cute.
Okay.
So I want to be careful about how I ask the question, because this is a parent as well, right? I recognize the name.
Unrelated.
Okay, perfect.
And I can give you more details about the specific student, obviously not in an open,
I don't need them, I just
Yeah.
making sure that there wasn't like a,
no direct.
got it.
No, okay.
Okay.
All right, great. Any other questions? All right, I would entertain a motion then to approve the contract for these assistive services to Megan Shadrack. All right, motion?
Second.
And a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? And it does pass, okay. And then, under surplus, just had a question, and this was more in regards to the reading resources that were shown as not being used anymore, so I'm not sure who, which of our administrators that would come under, but I just wondered if we had, what was going to be done with those reading resources. It looked like there were a number of books listed and things. Are those going to be?
I can speak to that. I spoke with Tanya the other day.
Okay,
That stuff will go on surplus, we'll warehouse it at Thomas Jefferson. At that time, they'll sort it in a sense that we can sell it through gov deals and put it out to auction to other buyers that may be interested in those materials.
okay. So we have confirmed that there's nobody else in the district that can utilize those resources, and there's no local charity or anything that could use them. I mean, I just wondered if it was something that we could actually donate to.
If they do not sell, then we would offer them for donation at that point. We're not just going to pitch.
Okay, all right, so they'd be put on surplus to be bought or then donated?
Correct.
Okay, all right. That was just a question I had in looking at that, so.
That's a good question.
Any other questions? All right, I'd entertain a motion to approve the surplus property as indicated in our report.
So approved.
All right,
I'll second.
moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed. And I am going to go back and, Dave, to your question, Brian, would you please follow up and make sure, give us an update at some point that we're confident the resource that we approved, the brain prop resource specifically, that we have no concerns about any curriculum.
Oh, is he still back there?
Yes.
I was just going to ask too, do you mind sending us the link to the survey that you were talking about? Sure. I know we're not normally supposed to engage, so I apologize.
No, that's fine.
But
If
but I couldn't find it.
We didn't
But
see
we're
it at
looking
all.
at it on our phones. So if you would email us the.
Link to the survey?
Yes, that specifically, that would be awesome.
Okay,
I just
great.
want to look at it because I couldn't find it, so that'd be great.
All right, we'll certainly just look and see if there's anything. Okay, all right, appreciate those, that discussion. And that would take care of our consent agenda items. All right, move on to old business. And Dr. Lithcom, an update on our K-8 facilities issues.
Absolutely. As most of you know, in 2017, our community supported our J+C with the renovations at Jeff City High School and Nichols Career Center and the building of Capital City High School. We touched on earlier the number of kids that are now participating in activities that didn't so beforehand. That's one of the positives of having two high schools, and we're excited about that. We did state at that time we still had K through 8 overcrowding, and just a quick overview included there in 17, we said we would come back in 4 or 5 years. That was in 2017. We are now at 4 years, being in 2021. 22 would be 5 years. In the spring of 20, we had shared, we were considering bringing to the voters to address K through 8 overcrowding. When I say K through 8, that is kindergarten through 8th grade. Of our 11 elementary schools, our 2 middle schools, of those 13 buildings, we have trailers at 9 of those 13. We can educate kids in trailers. Todd Shaw's even shared earlier tonight that it's not about on the facilities, but it's about the people and what you're doing. We know that. But to be a premier district, trailers are not part of our long-range, long-term solution going forward. We wanted to basically take a look last year with COVID and our enrollment as the dust settles and see where we are. We have here a 35-year enrollment. Dawn verified these numbers, as you can see, and this is basically from 1987 through 2021, updated enrollment of what is sent to DESE. So this is official. You can see on those numbers that trend line. If you're an Excel expert, you can right click, and when it says add trend line, that's the one it gave us. We recognize if we had the last 3 years and you added a trend line for 19, 20, 21, it would obviously be different, and we recognize that. So we just took the data we had back through 1987. You could manipulate that however you wanted to look at 20, 30, 25, 20, 15, etc. But just trying to see where we are. We do know there's greater needs. We've touched on that. There's more specialization that is needed today than ever before, and we recognize that versus the traditional. You had a class of 25 kids, and you might have a couple kids that needed special services. It's different today, and we acknowledge that. And with those additions, require space for that to happen. So we are. This is our 35. You could go to the next slide, Don. I believe there's just one more. In the April of 17, I shared. In the spring of 20, we had some town hall meetings, and we considered bringing 256 buildings or add 258 and make Lewis and Clark and Thomas Jefferson both 5.8. Currently, Lewis and Clark and Thomas Jefferson are both grades 6 through 8, and if we added 256 buildings, one near Lewis and Clark, one near Thomas Jefferson, that would make all of our elementary schools, instead of kindergarten through 5th grade, it would make them kindergarten through 4th grade. We build a 5-6 building, and then the 6th grade that are currently in both middle schools, then they would go to that appropriate 5-6 building. We already have the staff because we have 5th grade teachers and 6th grade teachers, so we could do that as a no tax rate increase bond issue. That was a consideration, as well as building 258 buildings, and then make both middle schools, which are 6-8, into 5-8 buildings. So we would have 11 elementary schools, 4 middle schools, and 2 high schools, which when you look across the state, I'm not aware of any school across the state that has 2 high schools that then just has 2 middle schools. Traditionally, you have the most elementary schools, and then they have fewer middle schools, and then fewer high schools. So regardless on that, those were considerations there in the spring of 20 as we evaluated that. We hit pause on that as there was a lot of different wrinkles with that, and we weren't comfortable going forward with that. So we said we'd go to the spring of 21. Well, as we know, we had COVID last year. So we thought we need to just make sure we're in school and educating our kids with the pandemic and COVID. So we hit pause on that with the consideration here of spring of 22. Which is here, we're coming up here right now. So as Dawn touched on earlier with boundary lines, as we look at that, we want to make sure that we don't have the haves and the have-nots in our community with the Capital City High School and Jeff City High School. We're looking at the boundary lines to try to have similar enrollment numbers. Our enrollment trends that you just saw there on the previous slide, because of that, right now, we are hitting pause on the K through 8. And that's our recommendation at this time. As you can see, go back one slide if you would, Dawn. As you can see, with our enrollment over the last 4 years, let's say, down approximately 300 kids. Are there needs? Absolutely. But at this time, we think we should hit pause on that and really focus on, as Frank and Don will touch on here in a bit, our current buildings and the current needs, capital improvements and maintenance needs within our current 18 schools that we have. So at this time, we're not recommending adding additional schools for this coming spring like we've talked about. We'll see as with after the dust settles here with the pandemic and we continue to make our improvements, what our enrollment will do. But at this time, we don't feel comfortable going forward with that at this time. So I got some other wrinkles of that. Is there any discussion on that at this time? Or
Well, I
comments?
guess my question would be that regardless of enrollment numbers as a district and regardless of boundary lines, aren't our true issues with being at capacity really at Lewis and Clark and TJ? Like the boundary lines aren't going to change the numbers in our 2 middle schools, correct?
Potentially, yes, and it's more so at Thomas Jefferson than it is Lewis and Clark. I don't have that exact number here, but the number they've been very similar, but that number, the spread, we can get that number.
So, I mean, I
between the two.
understand you're wanting to hit the brakes on not adding new facilities when it comes to elementary and things like that, but I think at some point, when we're talking about capital improvements, we still have got to figure out and have a really solid plan for what we're gonna do for those teachers and kids and families that have kids enrolled in those two buildings that are truly busting at the seams. Whether it's an addition of an extra wing, or, I'm not saying we've got to go build a brand new facility or add a third middle school or something like that, but we really have some issues in those buildings. And can we handle the extra kids that are in there? Absolutely. But do we need to add some bathroom space and some more classrooms? We probably need to be looking at that.
Yeah, Lindsay, and that's a fair. I think through the boundary line process, as we look at Capital City High School and Jefferson City High School, obviously the feeders for both of those schools are both middle schools. And when we look at that and with the boundary line committee, do you want to touch on that, Dawn, with the boundaries?
One of the things when we come back to you, and one of the things the boundary committee is looking at, are those enrollment projections. And many of the lower grade levels, especially K1, are much smaller than historical. You've got that coming as well. We don't know if that's an anomaly because of the pandemic. We don't know if they'll rebound, but right now, those K1 numbers are smaller than they have been historically.
So we will, excuse me, Lindsay, we will need to look at that, obviously. I think going forward, and I'll turn it over here to Don here in a second, but Frank, each of you have a copy here. This is basically an audit of each of our 18 schools based on identifying that Frank has worked through, and I commend Frank, a lot of great information there. But going forward, as we look and seeing what those capital, regardless whether we went to the voters and asked for additional schools or to build on a TJ or whatever it might be, we need to make sure that we're taking care of our existing buildings. So that's a part of that. I know there'll be a recommendation from the boundary line committee as they look at projections at the elementary and the middle school going forward. So Dawn, with that leading in, would you touch on?
Whoa. Do we have a plan to get rid of these trailers, or? I mean, I haven't read through this, obviously, but do we have a plan to get rid of trailers?
I don't think right now to say a plan to get rid of all the trailers. 9 of our 13 schools have trailers, and is there a plan right now? Unless you guys are giving me the directive to get rid of them, there's not a plan to get rid of those. I do think when we look at the additional, look at our enrollment numbers and what those projections are for considerations going forward, we'll have this as an agenda item here in our December board meeting. But we're not saying, well, just accept that we have trailers at 9 of our schools. We're not saying that. If it's still the voice of the board we would like a long range to not have trailers, I think that's what's been conveyed in the past, and whether that's still the case or not, but it's not something overnight that we're just going to get rid of trailers at all 9 of our schools at this time.
I mean, my concern is, obviously this is close to my heart because I chaired that long-range planning committee, and we're not on the plan. and I've been frustrated about it since we kicked this can down the road 3 years ago. And I understand things are changing, but we got into trouble with the second high school because people kept kicking the can down the road. And I just want to make sure that we don't get ourselves back into a pattern where we do nothing. I mean, I understand why you're pausing, but I laid that plan out for 20 years.
Right.
And so far, we've gotten one thing done in the 20 years of what the plans were.
Right.
That's my concern.
I think the long-range facilities plan that I know has a part of that Frank is working with, that I think we'll have some updates on that does include, and are some of those things are those still the current state? And I think that would be a good opportunity for us to kind of reassess of what that plan says. And is it still consistent and still the plan, or we're not because of reasons A, B, and C, whatever they may be. So we'll bring that back, of that long-range plan, and visit that next.
And I think some of the analysis that's being done through the boundary line committee will help us with evaluating where we're at with that. They're going to look at, there's not a lot of growth in the city of Jefferson. Of course, there is some in the county out west. There's different pockets. So they're going to look at areas of potential growth. And according to our city planner who met with the Holt Summit planner and the county planner, we are somewhat limited on our growth. We plan to get more information as part of that. But I think some of the work that's being done because of the boundary committee and some of that analysis will help us assess better. And I think tonight, as much as anything, was just a chance to tell you we're evaluating everything. So we are looking at, over the course of the next month, we're going to be looking at dollars and cents. Sherry's done a great job working with Lorenzo on trying to figure out where we're at with our debt service levy and what our bonding capacity is. And, you know, like in April, we would have the bonding capacity of $30 million. That would allow us 3 years later to come back for up to $90 million. So some of those things, we're looking at the financials, we're looking at the enrollment data and just student trend data and the data that's coming out of the boundary committee. And then Frank's been doing some great work with an audit of all of our buildings, prioritizing a 5-year list of kind of ongoing capital improvements that need to be tackled, some of which just likely can't be addressed in a regular, what is it, $2.5 million budget. And so just kind of looking at that holistically and coming back to you guys with more information. And I think tonight was just kind of letting you know that that's something that we're working on collectively in our respective departments to make sure. So if there are other things that you want to see as a part of that, be sure and let us know. But right now we're looking at the financial aspects, the demographic aspects, and which includes the enrollment trends and what it looks like, you know, down the future. And then where we're at with some of our buildings and their needs. And I'm going to let Frank kind of walk you through how to evaluate, how to interpret the audit that you, or the progress report that you have under.
So we have a hard, so that we have a hard copy, but then this is a soft copy of this report, is that correct?
Yes and no.
Okay.
And within that hard copy that you have, there's a couple pages in there that says to reference your thumb drive because there's hundreds of pages of data in there.
Okay,
And
all right,
so
so additional information on the thumb drive.
I didn't print you all the book.
So, yeah.
It is on there. So we've been fortunate with our energy performance contract that we've had, and if you can say fortunate, the hailstorm as well. With the hailstorm, that allowed us to bring in foresight to do a roof analysis of every one of our buildings throughout the district. And the last one was done almost 10 years ago, and so it was time to do another one anyways. And so some of that was paid for with some insurance money to look at that and see those schools that were hit. And then with the energy performance contract, we were really able to dive into a lot of our HVAC and heating and cooling and plumbing and some of our electrical needs throughout the district as an audit. So as they went through that, we were able to build this report with current data and not so much old data. Now we had current inventory already on HVAC units, but we didn't have current I guess longevity of what those units could do or where they would be. And so that's in that report with the aging, where they are and where the needs are. And when you look at the bread and butter of what you spend money on when you do these type of improvements, it's roofs and HVAC. And so that's a lot of that has been addressed this year. Roofs have not. And then the other things as Dawn mentioned would be the remodels of some of our buildings, our 28-year-old middle schools that we have, and then some of our unfinished elementaries that we have in Southwest and Bel Air's basement, and then we also have Morrow Heights and Thorpe that we're doing this summer. JCSchools still needs to be done, so there's still a good amount of work to be done that cannot be done with a $2.5 million a year budget to address other things, parking lots, sidewalks, and things that we have to do. Within this book, and this is for your informational purposes here, and what we do when we're planning these capital improvement projects that we're doing year to year. So in this front half of it, you have a courtesy of that long-range facility committee. We have updated these pages with the work that we've done thus far, and then some future considerations within that. So some of these future considerations you'll see in section 2 of this, and in section 2 is our 5-year plan for summer projects, and that's where we spend the bulk of our money for capital improvement is throughout the summer. And so you'll see some of that tie over to that, and then it goes through the current year. I just want to see how we finish out a year, and then the year's outliers through there. So that's in that second section of this book here. The back section, again, there's 2 pages there that reference what's on the thumb drive. There's I think there's 2 other reports on that thumb drive that are tied to HVAC as well as roofing. And then the Navitas project that we did over the summer. This was our energy control measure, and what we did is went through and ranked what we needed to do, what we didn't need to do, and what we're deferring at this point. So we got some windows on here, doors and things like that, but you can see it by all the green check marks that we accomplished. A huge amount of work this summer, and still ongoing, and it will be for a couple more years. And but I want to put this together for your information. Now, I'd love if you have questions, please come to me, email me, call me, and we can schedule a meeting if you want to sit down and get in. I can talk about this stuff for hours. I love it. If we get into the weeds, I could stand here for a long time and do this. But I want you guys to be informed. I really do. I want you to know what we plan to do, what we'd like to do, and what we need to do in some cases. But this is for your reading pleasure. And again, if you have any questions, please just call me up.
This is super
Okay.
nice to have, thank you.
Yeah, and I would like to, if we can, Stephanie, can you help us make sure that we get copies to the members that are not here tonight in their hands pretty quickly, so that, again, they can, because obviously I think we all want to, make sure that we're up to date on this information, and then be prepared to have further discussions about some of those questions like that have been raised tonight. I mean, some great things that we need to know what we're going to do as we go forward.
Yeah. Well, I'd also like to know that these covers are from when Pioneer Trail was built, so held on to that, and the thumb drives were free from Navitas. So there you go.
Okay.
All right.
Well, it's hard. I mean, when we start talking about these things, you realize the middle schools are how old now? 28 years old?
I'll be 28 after this year.
And are still sometimes referred to as
The new middle schools, right? Yeah.
The nice thing, we got everything from the ceiling up done this summer. And
Okay.
we're doing some additional roof work this summer, and so everything from the ceiling down, lockers, walls, paint, flooring, and some plumbing. But outside of that, there's
Yeah, so I think the big questions are, again, are they big enough based on all the different things we've talked about? And then I think, I don't know, Larry, I don't want to speak for the board, but I think it would be our sentiment that we'd like to get rid of every trailer at every school. I mean, I don't think that's probably a stretch to say that that's everybody's, hope that we can do that. So.
I've also been fortunate enough to sit on the committee too with Don with her formation and the plans that they're looking at in the building when they kind of present that in December. If you go to this meeting, you'll see that some of this has cured, if you will, some of that overcrowding in some of these schools that we actually do have trailers in. So
Okay.
I think
All right.
you'll like some of the results that they did.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Oh, I look forward to going through it, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frank.
All right, moving to new business. We have Sherry LePage, our CFO, regarding authorization of some bonding.
So today we refinanced some bonds, some of our older bonds for cost-saving purposes, and Lorenzo Boyd from Steeple and Sean Flynn from Gilmore and Bell are here today to give you a brief explanation and to answer any questions that you have on the bond refinancing.
Welcome, Lorenzo.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. My name is Lorenzo Boyd with Stiefel, and I'd like to give you a brief update of the bond refinancing process that we went through today. We started the refinancing process about five weeks ago to refinance two of the school districts' 2012 and 2014 bonds. We refinanced about $9.3 million of the 2012 bonds and about $4.6 million of the actual 2014 bonds. Through that process, we went through the rating process once again. Every time you do a new bond issue, whether it's a refinancing or a new money transaction, you have to go through that bond rating process. So we went through that process again, and I believe I gave you a quick summary of the kind of results, what we had today when we went into the market. But through that rating process, the district was affirmed its underlying rating of AA-, as well as they received the AA+ bond rating from their entry into the Missouri Direct Deposit Program. And so what you'll see here in that quick summary, the total amount of bonds that we sold was a little over 13 million. What I'm still shocked about is that we're still receiving an oversubscription in terms of orders. So we received about 50 million of orders for 13 million of bonds. So we were able to lower interest rates about 3 to 10 basis points throughout the entire curve. This bond issue only went out to 2027. But what you'll see here through that summary, us even lowering interest rates from 3 to 10 basis points throughout the entire financing, 50 million of orders. Still, the 6-year bond was well under 1% at a 0.88%. So that just goes to show you that even though interest rates are still at all-time historic lows, there's still a lot of demand for safety in terms of safety products like municipal bonds. We also received some new people that actually came to the market today to kind of purchase some of the school district's bonds. BlackRock, they were not more recent purchasers of the school district's bonds, so they put in some orders for today's bonds. Breckenridge Capital Advisors, Asset Preservation Advisors, they're definitely new. And then Key Bank, they actually stepped in and bought some bonds as well. And then we had some retail orders as well. So with that 7-year financing, we were able to save the district about $590,000, which comes to about $98,000 a year from now through 2027. And we'll be set to close in a couple of weeks. And then we'll be on to the next process. And we're open up for any questions. Sean Flynn is your one bill. I always bring my attorney. I don't know why, but I never get in trouble, but he still.
No, when you tell us that you're going to save us that much money, you don't need an attorney, probably.
He still wants to come. He loves this place.
I would have brought my gold star.
I was going to say, yeah. Do we have an award to give him or anything? Yeah.
I didn't get many gold stars in school. I'll tell you that.
We should let you go first.
All right.
That's great news. Thank you.
Yeah. Any questions?
And I think all we need is a passage of the resolution.
All right.
We're all
So
set.
I would entertain a motion to adopt the resolution authorizing these.
To approve the resolution to refinance our bonds.
All right. Motion
I'll second.
and second. Any discussion? All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. And opposed? No. All right.
And I did want to add too. Sherry did a great job on her first solo bond rating process. So she did a great job of going through that process and getting all the questions answered. So
Right.
that was a great job by her.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. And then we move to the Benefits RFP.
Okay.
Okay.
So as you know, we put out an RFP for a benefit consultant on September 17th. We received 4 proposals by the deadline listed. A committee was formed which consisted of myself, Dawn Bearhorse, Brian McGraw, Ken Enlow, and Lorelei Schwartz. We reviewed the proposals. We conducted virtual interviews with the vendors. We had really high-quality proposal responses. Based on the rubric, which included factors such as cost, product offered, experience, as well as the district's desire to support local vendors, it is our recommendation that we award the RFP to Wall Street Group. If the board is in agreement, we will bring back a contract for approval and signature in December or January.
All right. So you've heard the recommendation. And any questions or concerns? All right. So we don't need to vote tonight, correct? We'll bring back a formal contract at the December meeting then. Okay. Sorry. All right. Thank you. And finally, under new business, Mr. McGraw, we're going to talk a little bit about our substitute
Yes.
teacher.
So, as part of our roundings, faculty council, meetings with the teachers associations, One of the concerns that we're going to getting hit with, and obviously it's nationwide as well, is substitute shortage. And if you remember, we did increase the rate from 85 and 100 to 100 and 110. Our sub-fill rate is better to date than last year, but we still have teachers out for a variety of reasons. So we're trying to find ways to increase our pool, as well as get some of our current pool to commit to more days. Some may do 2 or 3 days a week, or 1 or 2 or whatever, but maybe from our meetings with staff and faculty and administration, we were looking at the potential of having a bonus after 20 days of work starting, if it was approved by the board tonight or next month, that 20 days of completion of work, 20 days substituting would give us, we would give a bonus of $500, and any 20 after that, we would give $500 as well, to try to make us one of the highest paid. It would make us the highest paid in mid-Missouri as far as substitutes. So maybe we could grab some of the people that are subbing in area districts as well. So that was one way we were looking at alleviating and freeing up some of our staff. And right now they're covering classes, giving up a variety of periods. We have people doing, say counselors serving as teachers, or librarians serving as teachers when people are out, and that's just putting us behind in the jobs that they're already scheduled to do. So we're looking at potential of putting in that bonus after 20 days of commitment to us, and that would, starting day one would be after you approve it moving forward. So it's just another way of trying to think outside the box and get more people subbing.
Do we have any idea what the cost to the district would be, and do we have money in the budget for it?
Last year we had over 100 that did over 20, so you're talking potentially over 50,000.
And so this would just be good for this school year?
Just this year, to see if we can strengthen our pool and get more people.
Okay.
looking for us.
And do the days have to be consecutive, or they
do
could
not.
be when
No.
over? Okay, all right.
What are,
We had debated that back and forth, and we felt that'd be very difficult, especially, if someone was sick, and then are we giving them an incentive for coming in? So we kind of backed off that.
Okay, all right, that makes sense.
What are some of the, you mentioned like, this would just be in addition to some of the out-of-the-box things we're doing to encourage people to sub. What are some of those other things that you guys are doing to increase the sub pool?
Well, we obviously, the first step was increasing the pay.
Right.
On that end. The second one was, we're gonna put together tomorrow, if we get approval, we're gonna do a social media blast and attack it that way, trying to get people going.
So money, and then money again,
Yep.
okay? So what else?
We have full-time, we did bring in a sub at the elementary level for all the buildings. We're working on getting commitments for the secondaries as well, trying to get at least one person on staff that's committed to each building. And that way
So
they're in the
I'm just,
building.
from a parent perspective, I'll just tell you that I've had so many parents reach out to me and say, what can I do? Like I keep seeing on social media, teachers are posting, they're so tired, what can we do to help? And parents don't know that, I genuinely will tell you that I don't think parents know that there is a sub shortage. And if I had a teacher call me, I've got kids, I have an elementary, I have a middle school, and I have a high schooler. And if you called me, if a principal called me and said, Mrs. Rowden, I need you to take 5 days of vacation and come substitute at school, would you do that for me? In a heartbeat, I would do that. So I would challenge you to really think outside the box and to have these principals reach out to their, every school that we have has a group of really strong parent participation. And not all of them, but every school I know has 10 strong parents in their building. Every one of them has at least 10. I would encourage those principals to reach out to those 10 parents and say, hey, would you do us a solid and go get certified to be a sub and help us? I know that you would be successful in doing that. I mean, let's
We would do it
really.
if we could.
We would, and I promise you, if my kid's 3 principals said, Mrs. Rowden, would you take 5 days of vacation? I would figure out a way to take 15 days of vacation. I just said it publicly. If they all 3 call me, I will figure out a
As
way.
school board member, you
Well,
can't.
okay, well, I can't. Well, I would figure out a way for my husband then to give, just said that publicly. I bet he's listening, my phone's gonna blow up. I will figure out a way, but, I mean, we genuinely want to help. I don't think parents know. And so I really think,
Well, I was going to say, so can we, as part of this communication blitz, can we include, some, like how to get, I mean, I think there are a lot of people, and now that our buildings, Chad, I'm assuming, I mean, again, not putting you on the spot, but I know for a long time we were locked down as far as any non-staff coming into the buildings. Are we at a point now with schools being in green? Is part of that, and I apologize for not knowing, but is part of that allowing for outside staff to come in? Other than staff to come into the building?
Correct. We do have
Okay.
visitors and this principal approves.
Okay.
To make sure that we keep track of who's in our buildings.
All right.
But they are still required to wear masks even if they're vaccinated.
Okay.
But other than that, we do have visitors coming.
Okay. And, I mean, include the, the links to Kelly Services, right? Yeah, so if I'm interested in doing that, I can see exactly what I need to do to sign up. And I think that's a great idea. And again, I think, anything else that we can leverage in terms of ideas from other districts that have worked. We know that this is not a unique issue. This is a nationwide issue.
I mean, we've got business partners, grandmas, grandpas, aunts, people that, people want to help us. And let's take advantage of our community and ask. Let's ask people, we need your help. We need you to do this. We wouldn't ask if we didn't need it.
And if they like driving, we could put them driving a bus.
Hey, you know what? Let's ask them. Let's do it.
Good shift.
So I want to make sure I understand. So you're asking, the first step you're asking tonight is for board approval to put in place a bonus for 20 consecutive days at $500, or excuse me, not consecutive, 20 days, a $500 bonus, and then $500 bonus for any additional 20 days that an individual would sub.
Yes.
And
Move to approve.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor with a motion. Do we have a second? Second. All right. Any other discussion about the motion?
What I might just insert there, that $500 for 20 days equates to 25 additional dollars, so that $110 comes to $135, and the $100 comes to $125. So for 20 days, they're going to be making $125 and $135, which we do think will attract some.
Okay.
And we're saving money this year because we're not getting subs at the rate that we should get either, so.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion on the floor and a second. Any other discussion? All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Stephanie, was that a aye?
Yeah, aye.
Okay. And any opposed? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
All right, that completes our new business. Future dates, Thanksgiving break, coming up November 22nd through the 26th. Policy Committee meeting on December the 2nd, where we'll consider some of the things we talked earlier about. Board candidate filing, you see those dates. Our regular December meeting, the 2 boundary line committees that were referenced earlier next week, and the last day of candidate filing, December 28th. Our winter break and January board meeting listed as both that December and regular or January meeting will be here as it stands right now, correct? Okay. All right. Anything else then before we go into close?
Nope.
Lindsay, you want to do the honors?
Motion to suspend open to enter into the closed meeting by roll call vote pursuant to Chapter 610.021 of the Revised Statutes of Missouri, Sections 1, Legal Actions, 2, Leasing, Purchase, or Sale of Real Estate, 3, Hiring, Firing, Disciplining, or promoting of an employee, 13 individually identifiable personnel records, and 14 records which are protected from disclosure by law.
All right. Motion and a second. Roll call?
Lori Aspen. Yes. Lindsey Robbins.
Here?
Lorelei Schwartz.
Yes.
Emma.
Yes.
And sorry, Stephanie, you can't vote.
Sorry, Stephanie.
I was thrown off.
All right.
This made me stutter.
All right, so moved. We'll take a 5-minute break, so we'll reconvene at 7:30.